Brad Burnett, and I am the Associate Director, let me get this right, Associate Vice President for Enrollment and Student Financial Services here at the University of Oklahoma. I've kind of grown up in the financial aid world about 7-8 years ago when they did the exit surveys coming out of Gateway, and they asked the students back then what was the one thing that wasn't taught during their entry to college course that they wish would have been taught. And back then, the overwhelming response was information about money, about personal finance. So Dr. Lanning, who was over University College Gateway programs at the time, came to me, and I guess because back then I was the Director of Financial Aid, she said, "Brad, would you be willing to go talk to freshman Gateway students about managing their money during the college years?" And I replied, "Dr. Lanning, if you knew how I managed my money during my college years, you wouldn't want me to do that." So I tell you what, guys, when I was in college, I made every mistake possible with money. If there was a way to mess it up, I messed it up. And every time I'd make a mistake, I'd always say, you know what? I wish somebody would have told me. I just wish somebody would have told me. So I don't know if you're going to get anything out of this or not, but at least when it's all said and done, you're not going to be able to say like I did, nobody ever told you, okay? What we did was we put together an outline called the 9 Things Every College Student Should Know About Money. It became a pamphlet. We'll get you those pamphlets afterwards. Basically, it could be called the 9 Things Brad Messed Up On Throughout His Life when it came to personal finance. We're going to work our way through those 9 things. Number 1, you've got to have a plan. If you wander around in the dark long enough, you will eventually hit the wall when it comes to money. You've got to have a plan. Over the course of your life, that plan will get more complicated. You will get into things like getting married, having children, buying a house, paying for those children to go to college, making sure that you're properly insured. Possibly you're going to need to retire someday. How are you going to save for that? Over the course of your life, your financial plan gets more complicated. We don't have time today to get into all that, so we're going to focus on one part of a financial plan that is very important to college students, and it's called the budget. Okay? Now don't get overwhelmed by this, financial plan called a budget. A budget is actually very simple. You can do it on a single sheet of paper. You just take a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle, line across the top, and on one side you write income, and on the other side you write expense. Okay? For you fancy business going to end up in Price College folks, this is revenue. Expense is debt, right? For you not business folks who are not going to end up in Price Business College, this is money coming in. This is money going out. Okay? You want to know the secret to financial success? I can do it in one sentence. Ready? Spend less than you make. That's it. That's all you got to do. All you have to do to be financially successful is spend less than you make. You know what? There's very few households in America today that actually spend less than they make. We're a society that has become enamored by debt and credit. And it's because we want things right now, and we're not willing to wait until we can actually afford those things in order to purchase them. Okay? But let's look at your personal budget, all right? Income. That's pretty easy for college students. Where you guys get your money from? Mom and dad? Where else?
Work.
Job? Where else?
Scholarships.
Nice. You guys are good. We'll just say financial aid, and that encompasses loans, grants, work study, all the financial aid programs. Those are probably the big 3, okay? Now, some of you may have a grandma out there that's really helping you out. Good for you. But for most students, you're looking at the one or a combination of these 3 items in order to come up with the revenue that you need in order to be here. So you take the amount of income that you're getting from those sources, you add them together, and you come up with one number. That number is the number that you have to spend less than. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Pretty simple. Then we get over to the other side, it gets a lot more complicated. Okay? Expense. Expense is a very personal thing. It's all about you. With a group this size, I can guarantee you that if somebody in this room had a $100 bill in their pocket, it would burn a hole in their pocket until they figured out a way to spend it. Okay? And I bet you that there are other people in this room who would take that $100 bill and you'd have to fight them for it to get it away from them because they're savers. Some of you are spenders, some of you are savers. Healthy is to be in the middle. Healthy is to be in the middle because you don't want to spend yourself into bankruptcy. You also don't want to save so much that you miss your life. You don't want to be such a miser that your life goes by because it goes by like that. All right, so that being said, we get over here to the expense side. I can not tell you what kind of person you're going to be, but I can give you a model to work from. And that model is this. You must decide for yourself the difference between what it is that you need versus what it is that you want. Okay? Need versus want. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, I don't like this dude because the dude's telling me I can't have the things that I want. And that's not what I'm saying. All I'm asking you to do is go through and determine the things that you need versus the things that you want, and then pay for the things that you need first. Once you have the things that you need paid for, go get what you want. Go get everything you want. The problem is that most of us have a pretty expanded view of what it is we think we need. So by the time we get done paying for those things, we don't have a lot of money left over to go after the things that we want. Okay? You're all different, but I do know this much about you because you're a common group. You're all college students, right? I do know some things that you absolutely, all of you need. You need to be able to pay tuition and fees. You need to be able to buy books, or you'll flunk out. And you need to be able to live somewhere and eat. So you need room and board. Then you have it covered by this financial aid scholarship program. Those are things that you need, okay? You need to have those covered in your financial plan. All right? After that, it gets very discretionary. Like I could say something that everybody in this room probably would have a different opinion on. And I guarantee you I'd have a different opinion from you. What if I was to say to you, while you're in college, do you need a car? I'd love to go around the room, but in the interest of time, we don't have to, because I always thought it'd be fun to just stop here and go around the room and get people's impressions of whether or not they need a car. We don't have time to do it, so I'm going to give you my impressions of whether or not you need a car, which, may is no fun for you, but it's fun for me because I get to talk. Here's the 3 reasons why I think you may need a car. Number 1, you live 45 miles from here and you're a commuter student and that's the only way you can get to college. I would say, yeah, you need a car to go to college. Number 2, you take your car from here and you drive to a job that's providing you with income so that you can afford to be here, then yes, I would say you need a car to go to college. Now the third one may surprise you coming from me. But you know what? If your mommy and daddy are paying for the car, why not have the car? It's not hurting your financial plan any, right? But what if you're making the car payment and you're paying for the gas and you're paying for the insurance and you're paying for the parking here on campus? Do you need a car? Life's all about decisions. What if you only had enough money to pay for one? Either make your car payment or make a tuition payment. What are you going to do? All right? Now, there's not as big, there are other things that can affect your financial plan that aren't as big a deal as a car. Sometimes you don't even know they're happening, all right? They're usually habitual. Habits in college can be a good thing. Habits get you to where you need to be on time. Habits are forming so that you're in the right place at the right time because college is real bing, 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 bing. But habits can also eat away at your financial plan. For example, let's say you're in the habit of, man, I got to get up early, I got to get ready for class, I got to get me a cup of coffee. So you stop by Starbucks and you pick up a cup of coffee, which I think going rate's now about $4, right? Don't do that. That just makes pain for me. But we'll go with $4, all right? Well, you're getting the cheap coffee. All right. And then after class, you're hungry, but it's not yet quite time for lunch. So you're going to stop over at a vending machine somewhere. You're just going to pick up a $1 snack. And you just do that 5 days a week, just Monday through Friday. Now on the weekends, you're tired of eating on campus. So you go off campus, somewhere on the restaurants on I-35, and you buy yourself a meal for $15. Now on Saturday night, You want to go out with your friends. You want to do whatever you do on Saturday night. So you take $30 and you go out on a Saturday night. Okay. Let's see. We're talking about a cup of coffee a day, a little snack out of the vending machine, just Monday through Friday. We're talking about one day, one meal a week. We go off campus and eat and just spend $15. And on Saturday night, we go out with our friends and we spend $30. That's just living, right?
$70. Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much you will have spent at the end of 1 year? Over $3,600. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is this. What would you have done? What would your behavior have been if you'd have had $3,600 in your pocket or in your possession all at once? Would you have gone out and bought cases and cases of coffee? I don't think so. Maybe. If you do, go to Sam's Club and get it cheaper. But what if you really bad wanted to go somewhere nice on spring break? And you know what? What if $3,600 was enough money to get you there? You know what? This number never changed. The amount of money that you had available in your personal financial situation stayed exactly the same. The only thing that changed was when you got over here to the expense side, you cut out a cup of coffee a day, or you didn't go out to eat that one time, and you were able to save up enough money to go on spring break. You manage your money. Don't let your money manage you. Okay? Number two is, hey, you got $1 I can borrow. There will come points in your life when you're not going to have enough money in your pocket to do certain things, make certain big purchase items because they're expensive, all right? The three most common examples that people run into is buying a car, buying a house, and doing just exactly what you're doing right now, paying for a college education. Those three items are expensive, and typically people might have to borrow money in order to obtain those items. Anytime you borrow money, you are doing so by paying interest to anyone who's loaning you the money. Cash is king, cash is cool. If you can pay cash for something, do it. But if you do need to borrow, make sure that you're borrowing for the right reasons, that it's something that you need versus something that you want. Whenever you take out a loan like that, it's called a term-based loan, all right? A term-based loan looks like this. It's linear. It's flat, all right? A term-based loan has a start and it has an end. Most importantly, it has an end. And what happens between the beginning and the end of a term-based loan is called the terms. All right? Those are the things that are agreed upon between you and whoever's loaning you the money. Can anybody think of some examples of what would be the terms when you're negotiating a loan deal?
High interest rate.
What the interest rate is. What the interest rate is going to be. What else? How do you get the monthly payment? You're onto it, but how do you figure the monthly payment? You've got to have the interest rate. You've got to have the amount of the loan. And what's the third piece? I thought I heard it. No, the length of the loan. The duration of the loan. It's a big difference between a 3-year loan and a 30-year loan. Okay, if you have the interest rate being charged, the amount of the loan, and the duration of the loan, then you drive the monthly payment. Okay, you want to end up at the monthly payment. Don't start there. Okay, so if you keep up with your end of the deal, you're going to sign a piece of paper that says, I promise I will do this. If you keep your promise, at the end, you own the car. You own the house. Or you no longer owe the student loan companies any money. Don't think for 1 minute when you drive off a car lot in a car that you borrowed money to purchase that you own that car. If you don't believe me, skip a couple of payments. You'll find out real quick who owns that car. No, don't do that, okay? All right, let's talk about a house. As a general rule, as an overriding rule, you want to spend money to make money, okay? One of the places where you can spend money to make money is by buying a house. All right, a lot of people start creating wealth by purchasing their first home. And it's the way that houses work. When you buy a house, when you buy a brand new car, what happens to the value of that brand new car right after you buy it? Depreciates. It goes down in value a lot, like 20%. So you buy this $20,000 car, and boom, you drive it off the lot, and it's now worth $16,000. And you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't hit a tree or anything. That's just how new car purchases work. Might be a lot smarter to let somebody else drive it off the lot and you buy a slightly used car, the same car, for $16,000. But a house, what happens to the value of a house if you buy a good house, a good neighborhood, and you take care of it? It goes up. Anybody know what that's called? It's called appreciation. So depreciation means value goes down. Appreciation means that value goes up. You can use your house to make money because of this appreciation concept. So when you buy a house, you can borrow money over long. Houses are expensive, and so in order for them to be affordable for people, banks will let you borrow money over like a 30-year period of time, which is absurd if you think about it. 30 years you can borrow money. When you buy that house, and if you don't get anything else out of today, please get this, okay? When you buy that house, you want to take out the lowest fixed rate loan that you can get. You want to have a fixed rate, especially if it's low, the lowest you can get. Because the way you use that to make money is you start making payments on that house, right? Fixed rate means the payment's flat. The interest, you've got to deal with the bank for 30 years, they can't change. You're locked in. You got a good deal. Over time, you're making payments on the house. So the amount that you owe back to the bank, what happens over time? It goes down. You don't owe the bank as much money. Every time you make a payment, you owe them less. But what do we say houses do in value? They appreciate. So while you're making payments, you're paying down the mortgage, but your house is going up in value. So the house is worth more and you owe less. This gap is getting bigger. The difference between what the house is now worth and what you now owe on it is called equity. And home equity can be turned into cash. If you sell the house, you can turn it into cash, or you can leverage the equity in your home as collateral for a loan in order to, say, start a new business that's going to make you more money. There's a lot of wealth that is created through equity, and it's because of this whole fixed rate concept. Like, for example, right now I have a 5.5% mortgage that I'm getting ready to refinance, by the way, on my house that I bought 10 years ago. Well, you know what? 10 years ago when I bought that house, I was making a certain amount of money. But over time, my responsibilities here at OU have increased. And what happens usually when your responsibilities increase? You get more money. So if you go out and you start out as a entry-level worker right out of college, you're going to make X. But if you're good and you know what you're doing and they're impressed with you, that income is going to go up over time. All right? So I sealed this deal 10 years ago at a fixed interest rate on a house that I could afford. But over time, my income's gone up. That means there's more income available in my personal financial situation. Do I need to spend that on my house payment? No. I could afford my house payment 10 years ago when I bought it. So that new money that's come into my personal financial situation, hey, I can maybe use that to go out and get some of the things that I want. Now, I don't ever want any of you to pay off a house over 30 years, okay? You can get the 30-year loan, that's fine, but if you do that, you need to do this thing called amortize when you make your payments. Just real quick. Let's say you have a $2,000 house payment with a fixed rate loan. So when you first take out that loan, it's made up of two parts, principal and interest. This is the deal that you've made with the bank. It cannot change. Your house payment will never go up if you have a fixed rate loan. Now your insurance can go up and your property taxes can go up, but not the deal you have with the bank. So when you first start out, typically principal is, your overall payment is $2,000, principal is $300, interest is $1,700. That means the bank is going to take $1,700 and they're going to apply the $300 to your principal, okay? The way you amortize a loan is the $1,700 interest payment is only due once a month. So you turn around, you make your payment, you make your regular $2,000 payment, and then you turn right back around and you send them another $300. So now you've sent them $2,300, but you know what just happened? On this $300 that you sent them, the second one, it has no interest attached to it because you've already paid it for this month. So you essentially just made two house payments in 1 month. You just paid January and February, but February only cost you $300. You just saved $1,700 in 1 month off one payment. What that will do is shorten the term of your loan So instead of 30 years, that term's going to go down, down, down so that you pay off your house faster, and you could save tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest that you won't have to pay because you're not paying this interest on it every month. Yes?
What's the fixed rate loan?
What is a fixed rate loan? It's a loan that the amount, the interest, the percentage that you owe never changes. So if you have a 5% fixed rate loan, it's 5% forever. If you have what's called a variable rate loan, it'll start out at like 2%. That's how people got hooked into them. But then every year it adjusts, and usually it adjusts up. So it starts at 2%, but then it goes up, 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 and all of a sudden now you got a 12% loan, and you're in a bad loan, and you got to get rid of your house. That's what caused the housing bubble. That's why so many people lost their houses. They got into bad loans. They didn't get into fixed rate loans. They got into interest-only loans, balloon loans, variable rate mortgages that they thought would never go up, and they went up. Okay? So be careful. This is principal and interest. Interest goes to the bank. Principal actually pays down your loan.
So what's the best loan to get out of when you're buying a house or a car?
The fixed rate loan. Fixed rate loan. I try to get fixed rate loans on everything, whether it's a house, car, your college loans are all fixed rate. You always want a fixed rate loan if possible, because that way you can plan for it. With a variable rate loan, you can't plan for it. You don't know what it's going to do in the market, whether interest rates are going to go up or down. Okay. Yes?
What happens when you take out like a second mortgage on your house?
Then
you hear about that.
You're borrowing above what you owe. So this is a first mortgage. The value that you owe the bank, or the amount you owe the bank, goes down. You have this equity in your home. You can take out a second mortgage on that equity. So it's borrowed.
Put it in the business, or
typically, if you want to, if you're going to do a home equity loan, you want it to put it somewhere where it's going to make you more money. Otherwise, you're just spending. So if you take the home equity loan to go on vacation, you go on vacation and then it's done. Whereas if you take the home equity loan and start a business, that business is going to generate more revenue, and your whole goal is to create more wealth throughout the course of your life. Okay? All right, let's talk about student loans. All right. Here at the University of Oklahoma, we do about $200 million worth of financial aid every year. That's $200 million that we push out to you guys to help you to pay for college. All right? Of that $200 million, about $120 million of it is in the form of a loan. So I know how many of you are paying for college. You're borrowing. And that bothers me. It bothers me a lot, because we are putting you into debt. And that is debt that's going to slow you down when you get out of school. When you get out of college, you're going to want to do all kinds of things. And you have to pay off those student loans. Student loans do not play. You cannot discharge a student loan in bankruptcy. You can go bankrupt all you want, but you still owe that student loan. They will wreck your credit, and if it's bad enough, they will do this thing called garnish your wages, where they come into your employer and they take a percentage of every paycheck until they get their money back. Student loans have to be repaid. Okay? Now, have I significantly or sufficiently scared you? All right, here's the flip side, all right? This is the reason I can sleep at night. I can sleep at night because I understand the end game. And the end game is this. There's a book written called Millionaire Next Door, and it talked about characteristics of self-made millionaires. And one characteristic that self-made millionaires all have in common is that they all set goals. And then they tenaciously go out to achieve those goals. And you guys have to do that. You have to set goals and then tenaciously go out to find and meet and achieve those goals. Now, you're all different. You're all going to have different goals, but each of you needs to have this one goal in common, because it's important. And that is to graduate from college, because it means a lot. And I'm not talking about mommy and daddy being proud of you. I'm talking about money, all right? This comes from the Census Bureau. I'm kind of rounding off here, but basically what they found was, when they did the last census, that if you graduate high school and go to work, on average you can expect to make about $25,000 a year over the course of your life. But if you go to college and you graduate with a 4-year bachelor's degree, on average nationwide, you can expect to earn about $50,000 a year over the course of your life. All right, that's a $25,000 a year difference between a college grad and a high school grad. You take $25,000 a year and you multiply that over your 40-year working career, you know what that comes to? It's $1 million. That's what you're playing for here. That's why you're sitting in these seats. for the opportunity over the course of your lifetime to have the earning potential of $1 million more over someone who doesn't have a high school diploma. It's no guarantee. You have to go out and make it happen. But percentage-wise, you have the ability to earn more, statistically speaking, over the course of your life. Now, of students who borrow here at OU, on average, they graduate $23,000 in debt. That's a lot of money. That's money that you're going to have to pay back. It's money that'll slow you down when you get out of school. But you know what? $23,000 is the cost of a new car. That's a heck of an investment for $1 million payout. $23,000 investment for $1 million payout over the course of your life. Don't borrow the money to play. Don't borrow the money to elevate your lifestyle while you're in college. Borrow the money for what it's there for, to pay for the things that you need, tuition fees, books, and living expenses, so that you can get this degree, go out and make your dreams come true. All right? Number three. Number three is called charge. Charge looks very different from a term-based loan. This is the opposite of a term-based loan. It looks more like this. It's a circle, okay? Some people call it revolving credit. There's no real beginning, there's no real end. And that's how credit cards work. It took me until I was in my mid-30s to actually understand how credit cards work. And I'll just tell you the story. I was smart enough to know that if you get a credit card and you pay it in full every month, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like using cash, okay? And that's what my wife and I would do. We had this credit card. I didn't want her carrying around bunches of cash, so I gave her a credit card. She would spend. At the end of the month, we paid it off. No big deal. Well, I had a job working for the Department of Education back then. I was traveling a lot. And when you travel, you have to put the expenses on your own credit card, and then you get reimbursed later. Well, sometimes that reimbursement takes time. So I get this credit card bill in the mail one month, and it's for $7,200. Actually, it was $7,200.06. All right? So I'm looking at this credit card bill going, oh my gosh, because the credit card was at 20% interest. I'm thinking, I don't want to pay interest on, $7,200 at 20%. So I scraped and I figured out this plan to pay this off. This is back in the old days when you used to write paper checks before it was all online banking. So I write this check out, and I write it out for $7,200.06. But I got kind of sloppy with my writing. And my 6 ended up looking like a 0. And they cashed the check for $7,200 even. Back then they used to send you your checks back. So they sent me the check back, and I looked at it and I saw that they'd cashed it for $7,200 even, but I didn't worry about it. Who cares? I owe them 6 cents. What are they gonna do, charge me a penny? I got my next month's statement in the mail, and they had charged me almost $200 in interest. And I was shocked. And I called them up on the phone and I said, how in the world can you charge me $200 in interest on a balance of 6 cents? She said, you don't understand how credit cards work. I said, explain it to me then, lady. She said, if you'd read the terms and conditions that you signed when you got the credit card, it says in there that if you don't pay your balance in full, we go back in time. This is the part I didn't understand. We go back in time, back to the beginning of the billing period, and we charge you 20% interest on every purchase and any outstanding balance from the beginning of the billing period to the end. She was looking at my account. She says, I can see you charged a plane ticket for $1,000 to California on the first day of the month. We charged you 20% on that $1,000 plane ticket. I said, lady, I sent you $7,200. Take $1,000 and pay off the plane ticket. She said, I will not. That's not how credit cards work. It's not how revolving credit works. That's why if you guys make the decision that you need something, right, but you don't have the money to pay for it, so you then make the giant leap that you're going to go out and get it on credit. So let's say the new iPad comes out and it is just the coolest thing ever and you've got to have it, but it's $500 and you don't have $500. So you go get a credit card at 18% interest and you go down the store, you buy the iPad. Come back to the dorms, you got your iPad, it's all happy, you're the coolest thing on your floor. Until 30 days later, you get a letter in the mail. It's basically a credit card statement that says balance due $500. What are you going to do? I mean, you didn't have $500 30 days ago. Probably not going to have it now. So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to look at that statement and you're going to see another box on that statement that's going to say minimum payment due $10. Woo! That's what I'm talking about, $10. So you're going to write them a check for $10. The credit card company is going to get your check and they're going to smile the biggest smile they've ever smiled, because they just made more money off of you than if you'd have sent them the full $500. If you'd have sent them the full $500, they wouldn't have made any money. But since you only sent them $10, they apply the 20% interest back in time, or 18% interest back in time, to the $500 outstanding charge. That's going to come to about $7.50. I won't even put that in the equation. You know why? Because that $7.50 is gone. All right? That's their money. That's not your money. Now, they will take what's left. They'll take the $2.50, and they'll apply that to your $500 balance. So 30 days later, you're going to get another statement from the credit card company that's going to say, balance due $497.50. And you're going to be going, I thought I sent them $10. Well, anyway, minimum payment due $10. So you send them another $10. They smile. They take their $750 cut. They apply the $250. 2 months later, you get another bill in the mail that says, balance due $495. You've now sent them $20 and you still owe them $495. You're like, what's going on here? If you keep this up, if you keep making only the minimum payment on a $500 purchase at 18% interest, that $500 iPad will actually cost you over $1,400. Now that's not good, to pay more than twice, almost 3 times what something's worth. But you want to know what's worse? At least in my perspective. You know how long it'll take you to pay off the card? Even if you never charge another thing to that card. You know how long it'll take you to pay off that $500 purchase? 9 years. You'll be paying for that iPad for 9 years. It will be in a dumpster somewhere, and you'll be sending them $10 a month. Credit cards in and of themselves are not evil, but they are the single most dangerous financial tool you can have in your possession. And people are getting eaten up by them all the time. Be careful, okay? Number 4. Number 4 is called They Are Watching. This is kind of the big brother part of the program. They know who you are. They know what your social security number is. They know how much money you have in your bank accounts. They know how much money you owe to people. They are watching you. And they are the credit bureaus. Actually, what they're doing is scoring you. It's called a Fico Score. Fico Score goes from 350 to 850. And the higher your score is, the more willing people are going to be to loan you money later in life. And the lower your score is, the less willing people are going to be to loan you money, the worse terms you're going to get, and if your score gets too low, they will refuse to loan you money. I used to have this theory on life when I was in college. You know what my attitude was? Hey, what happens in college stays in college. Kind of like Las Vegas, right? You know? What happens in college stays in college. I was wrong. Here's what happened. I met this girl, and through many a late night phone conversation, I actually convinced this girl to marry me, and that was not easy, but I pulled it off, all right? So when you get to that point in your life, when you're actually going to get married, one of the first discussions you have is, hey, where are we going to live? Good discussion to have. Hey, let's follow our plan here. Let's buy a house. So we went and looked at houses, and we found one in our income range. We made an offer on the house. They accepted the offer. We went to the bank. Everything was happy. This is just storybook stuff. This is how it's supposed to go. Right up until the point where the banker dude got up and walked to the back. And when he came back, he had a completely different look on his face. And he looked me straight in the eye and he said, Mr. Burnett, we are not going to be able to loan you the money to buy that house. You have bad credit. And I was shocked. And I tell you what, guys, my fiance was sitting right next to me, and I was embarrassed. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, 6 years ago. Well, when he said that, I kind of knew what he was talking about. He said, you were more than 90 days late on an electric bill payment, and you went into default on a student loan. And it was true. I mean, I can explain it, the whole electric bill thing. You know, there was 4 of us. We all got a house together. Somebody's got to get the electricity put in their name. So I ran down the electric company, put it in my name. Spring, graduation came. We all blew out because we had stuff going on that summer. And nobody even thought to forward the bill. Nobody thought to go down there and get it out of our name. It was still in my name. I took the hit. The student loan thing, I was consolidating my student loans because back in the old days you had to borrow from banks, and they tell you when you do that you have to keep all your loans current. Well, my consolidation was like 2 weeks away from going through, and I knew I had one loan that was late, but I thought, 2 weeks? Who's going to care about 2 weeks? Well, they cared. They put me into default. So I looked over at my fiance who was crying, and I asked her about that later. I said, honey, you were crying because we weren't going to be able to buy the house, right? And she said, no. I was crying because I figured out that I was marrying a financial idiot. Thanks, honey. Appreciate that. So I just looked at the guy and I said, hey, is there anything I can do? And he said, well, there is this appeal process. And I wrote this master's thesis of an appeal, and it went before the appeals board, and it was approved. And I tell you what, guys, that changed our life, because my wife and I were poor. I mean, poor. Like this wedding ring I wear cost $75, and hers did too. And that's all the money that we had when we got married. We got this house, and we pulled up the carpet. It was a fixer-upper because that's all we could afford. And we pulled the carpet up because it was nasty. And underneath this carpet was this beautiful hardwood. And we refinished these hardwood floors, and then we started painting, and we found out my wife kind of has a knack for redecorating. So we fixed up this house. Then 9 months later, I got a better job, so we put the house up for sale, and we sold the house in one day. And then we went to the closing, and at the closing, this lady handed me a check for $10,000. We had sold the house in 9 months for $10,000 more than we bought it for. And my wife and I just looked at each other, and the light bulb went off. You telling me you can buy undervalued property, fix it up, and sell it and make money tax-free? Yep. And that's what we started doing. We started flipping houses. Your financial life's like a roller coaster. It's up and down, but every time we get in trouble financially, we always had a piece of property that we could flip. If we'd have put our heads down, and thank you, and gone out of that bank and gone back to that rented apartment, it never would have happened. If you take a hit on your credit score, a hit means that you go more than a certain number of days past due, you go into collections, or you go into default, then it will be noted on your credit report. Your credit score will drop, and it will stay on your record for 7 years. For 7 years, you're going to have to explain to somebody why you couldn't manage your money. Okay? Protect your credit score. It will be important to you at some point in your life. Number 5, if it sounds too good to be true, what? Probably is. If anything sounds like get rich quick, they're especially notorious for going after college students. Get rich quick basically means you ought to run away fast. If some guy's yelling at you at the TV at 3 in the morning going, just send me your money and we'll teach you how to get rich in real estate, it's a scam, okay? You want to get rich in real estate? Buy low, sell high. There, that's no charge. You see these ads like, make $50,000 a year stuffing envelopes. It's a scam, all right? If that was true, half of the employees at OU would quit and they'd go stuff envelopes. It's not true. All right, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. Get rich quick will get you in trouble fast. All right? Now, here's a story I tell just because Dr. Lanning always wanted me to, and so it's probably the most embarrassing story I tell, but I'll do it for you guys. All right, when I was 16 years old, I went to a horse racing track in Omaha, Nebraska, and I found a window where a guy'd let me bet. I put some money down on 2 horses. It's called an exacta. They have to come in first and second. And those 2 horses hit. And I won $225. So I'm 16 years old. I'm walking out of this horse track, $225 in my pocket, 3 things going through my head. Number 1, I was the smartest 16-year-old on the planet. Oh, yeah. Number 2, I had a lucky streak that I knew would last my entire life. And number 3, at the age of 16, I made a conscious decision that I was going to be a gambler. And that's what I started doing. Started gambling every chance I got. It wasn't like today. This is like cards, and then the dog races came. But anyway, fast forward 5 years. I'm now 21 years old. I'm in college, and I'm back at that same horse racing track. When you're a gambler, you're always looking for a sure thing, which is weird because gambling is a game of chance. But you always want to find this bet where you can't lose. Okay, so I'm looking for a sure thing. And I had a buddy whose brother was a jockey, and he could get me down into the jocks room. So I'd go down there and I'd listen to him talk. And I'm down there one day, and this jockey and this owner are over in the corner, and they're like real animated, and I could hear them talking. And the owner's like going, "This is it. We've been holding this horse back long enough. Let her go. Let her run, okay?" And the jockey's eyes got real big, and he's like, "Oh, yeah. And she can run." And I was like, yes. Finally, I had some inside information. So I go running upstairs to the betting window. I pulled out my billfold, and I had $20 in my wallet. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I finally get a sure thing, and I've only got 20 bucks left. So I knew this guy. So I went over to this guy, and I borrowed $500 from this guy, and I came back and put it down on this horse to win. I walked down to the viewing area, and I'm looking at the tote board where the odds are, and the odds were at 20-1, and then they were going up, like 21-1, 22-1. I'm trying to do the math in my head, and I can't quite get there, but I knew this was going to be the single biggest score gambling I'd ever made. The horses break from the starting gate. My horse sort of starts out in the middle of the pack and then just gradually moves to the front on the back stretch. The horse is like 3 to 4 lengths into the lead coming out of turn 4. In turn 4, when the horses came out of the turn, it stumbled. And it gave this other horse a chance to catch back up to him. They were neck and neck coming to the finish line, photo finish, waited for the photo to be shown, and my horse lost by a nose. And I looked down at my hand, and I was holding a $500 win ticket that was now worthless. And then it hit me that I owed $500 to some people you don't want to owe money to. If you gamble long enough, you will lose. The odds are not in your favor. They're in the favor of the house. If you look at the business plan of a casino, they can't lose. They're going to make money. All right? If you're going to gamble, and I do not recommend you gamble, but if you're going to do it, you have to promise me this. You gamble from your financial plan. You put over here on the expense side, you got $30 for entertainment. You don't want to do dinner and a movie. You're going to gamble. But when that $30 is gone, you quit. You stop. You walk away. If you'll do that because it's planned for, you'll never get into trouble. Don't get all arrogant like I was, thinking I was so smart, and then you just double down, right? Just double down to get out of trouble. Yeah, you double down and lose. You're in twice as big a hole, and eventually you can't get out. All right? Don't let gambling eat you up. Number 6. All right, I'm going to get through these. Number 6, appearances can be deceiving. I got my first job at Youngstown State University. You know, you graduate from college and you're like, okay, now I can start my life. I put all this work into it. Now I'm going to get this job. So I got this job making $24,000 a year. I'm like, be smart. All right, let's do a plan. So $24,000 a year, I'm going to do a monthly budget. So I figure, okay, $24,000 divided by 12, that's $2,000 a month, right? There's my revenue. There's my income. Expenses. Well, I didn't have a car. I did get through college without a car, so those of you trying to do it, it can be done. But I needed this car because I was in Kansas, the job was in Ohio. So I go out and buy this nice new car, right? $400 a month payment. I get in my nice new car and I drive to Youngstown, Ohio, where my job is, and I figured I needed a place to stay. To me, that's a need, right? So I got this apartment, got a nice apartment, $600 a month. I throw open the door to my nice new apartment and there's no furniture in there. I thought, well, I needed furniture. So there was a mall across the street. I went over across the street. I'm walking in the door to this furniture store. A lady hands me a clipboard. I fill out the clipboard. She says, go get what you want. So I got me a bed and a couch and TV. I got all this cool stuff. They brought it all over, set it all up in my house. Of course, it was all on credit, and it was going to be $200 a month for the credit, but I was styling now, right? Okay, and then I figured out my bills, and I figured my, the cable and the phone and all that was going to be like $200 a month. I'm a little worried, but I'm okay. And then I get a letter in the mail saying, Mr. Burnett, 6 months after you graduate, your student loans come due. Oh, I forgot about those. Okay, so then I thought I better add everything up. So I had $400 for the car payment, $600 for the apartment payment, $200 for the furniture, $200 for the bills, and $200 for the student loan. Total $1,600. Whew, all right. So I got $2,000 coming in. I got $1,600 going out. Spend less than you make. Going to leave me with $400 left for dining out, gas, incidental expenses. That was my financial plan. Where did I mess up? I got my first paycheck from Youngstown State University, and it was for $1,600. They had taken out federal taxes, state taxes, Medicare taxes, Social Security taxes. They didn't even ask me. They just took it. So that by the first day of the month, I owe $1,600. I have $1,600. I pay off my bills. I'm broke. That's what you call being upside down. When you're upside down, you have more money going out than you have coming in. You have to fix that. Remember, it's a two-sided equation. You either bring in more money which means a second job or some way to bring in more revenue, or you cut debt, which is usually easier. I should have bought a used car instead of a brand new one. I should have got an apartment for $300 a month instead of $600, or at least gotten a roommate. I could have figured out ways to do it. I didn't. I did not do that. I went out and got a credit card and started charging my incidental expenses on a card. In the beginning, it's no big deal. It's like $200, $400. 2 years later, I'm $10,000 in credit card debt. Remember, guys, when you're in that much credit card debt, it's not just the credit cards. I had the rent lease that I had signed. I had the car payment that I was due. I had the student loans. These were all contractual obligations that I had. I was in trouble. When that happens, you're either filing bankruptcy or you come up with some money. All right? I did not file bankruptcy. Actually, when I married my wife, she had a little bit of cash, and I used her cash to pay off those debts. But if you ever meet my wife, don't bring that up, because we're over that now. And I've way paid off that money a long time. But be careful. You only are going to bring home, when they tell you your salary is X, you got to take that's the gross. You take the gross times about 65 to 70%. And that's the net. And that's what you make your plan to. Okay? All right. 7, 8, 9 all go together. 7, 8, 9. The first one is called pay yourself first. You need to treat yourself like a bill. If there's one thing of the 9 things I wish somebody would have taught me when I was your age, it's this. You take money and you put it away. I would put it right here. I would call it a need. Like the first expense you have should be you. And by that I mean you take a set amount of money every month and you put it away. You put it somewhere where it's earning interest. Did you know that every single one of you in this room have going for you the single greatest factor in the creation of wealth? Did you know that? And I don't care who you are, what kind of car you drive, who your mommy and daddy is. I don't care about any of that stuff. Every one of you has going for you the single greatest factor in the creation of wealth. You know what it is?
Ourselves.
It's time. It's the fact that you're young. The fact that you're young puts you in a position to create tremendous amounts of wealth. It's called the Rule of 72. And the Rule of 72 is this. You take money. You put it somewhere where it's earning interest. You then take the amount of interest being earned and you divide it into the number 72. So let's say your money's earning 10% interest. You divide that